If you're Aquarius, there's something about you that people sense before you even speak. It's not just intelligence. It's not just being different. It's a quieter force, like a signal that doesn't need to announce itself to fill the room. Some call it presence. Some call it aura. But if we're being honest, it feels like protection. Like you move through storms and somehow you're still standing when the wind dies down. And I want you to stay with me to the very end of this, because the final part is the piece most people never hear. The part that explains why certain doors keep closing and why that's actually the universe keeping you intact. Before we go deeper, I want you to do something simple. Type one word in the comments: shielded. Not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because the moment you claim your frequency, you stop negotiating with energies that were never meant to access you. And as you type it, just breathe in slowly and say quietly, in your own space, I am guided, I am protected, I am aligned. Now, let's talk about what's really happening around Aquarius. Aquarius isn't just a zodiac sign the way people casually talk about signs. Aquarius is a current, a way of moving through the world that doesn't belong to the usual rules. It's like you're tuned to a wider bandwidth, one that picks up truth underneath noise, intention underneath words, patterns underneath chaos. And that kind of perception is rare. It can feel like a gift, but it can also feel like isolation, because when you see what's real, you can't unsee it. That's why people misunderstand you. They think you're distant when you're actually discerning. They think you're cold when you're actually protecting your nervous system from emotional clutter. They think you're stubborn when you're actually loyal to principle. And what's interesting is, the more you grow into yourself, the less you can fake comfort for other people. You stop pretending. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for needing space, needing truth, needing freedom. And that's where the protection intensifies, because the universe doesn't put its strongest signal inside a fragile container. Aquarius, you're not built to live for small rewards. You're not wired to chase approval like a hunger. You're here for something that doesn't always come with applause. You're here to move culture forward, to challenge outdated systems, to ask questions no one wants to answer yet, and to carry ideas that won't be fully appreciated until later. That's the strange paradox of Aquarius. People will laugh at what you say today, then repeat it like wisdom tomorrow. So why does it feel like you're protected? One reason is your mission. And I know mission can sound dramatic. But if you're Aquarius, you already know what I mean. Even when you're not trying, you end up thinking about the bigger picture, the collective, the future, how things could be improved. You don't just want life to be comfortable. You want it to be meaningful, fair, intelligent, evolving. That's not a casual desire. That's a purpose coded into your spirit. And when someone carries that kind of blueprint, the universe is careful with them. Not because you're better than other people, but because what you're carrying is bigger than personal gain. Aquarius, your mind doesn't just solve problems, it anticipates them. It sees where society is heading before society admits it's moving. And that can be lonely, because being ahead doesn't always feel like power. Sometimes it just feels like being early. And being early can look like being wrong to people who can't see the horizon yet. If you've ever felt like you were speaking into a room that wasn't ready to listen, that's part of it. And the universe protects those who speak for tomorrow, because tomorrow needs them intact. Here's another layer. Aquarius, your heart is often hidden, but it's not hollow. People confuse your calm with a lack of feeling. But the truth is, you feel deeply. You just don't perform it. You don't spill your emotions for entertainment. You don't use pain as currency. You don't weaponize vulnerability. You have this quiet, private way of caring that doesn't beg to be seen. And because you love, without needing control, some people don't know what to do with you. They're used to love being a transaction. They're used to attachment being a chain. They're used to intensity meaning devotion. But Aquarius, your love is different. Your love is like open windows, clean air, a wide sky. You want people to be free. You want them to become more of themselves, not smaller to fit your comfort. And that kind of love is sacred, which is why the universe often shields you from people who would try to distort it, exploit it, or trap it. Now listen carefully, because this is where the story gets real. Aquarius has a kind of spiritual immunity, not the kind where nothing ever hurts you, because you do get hurt. You do get betrayed. You do get misunderstood. But something happens after the hurt. You don't stay in the mud. You don't dissolve into bitterness. You alchemize. You transmute. You take what could have broken you, and you turn it into clarity. That's not normal. Most people, when they get wounded, they either harden or they collapse. Aquarius, you evolve. You upgrade. You learn. You detach from the old version of yourself without begging it to stay alive. And that's why lower energies struggle to hold on to you. It's like trying to grab smoke. It's like trying to cage wind. It doesn't work. And you've seen it. You've watched people try to pull you into chaos, into drama, into emotional games. And somehow you stayed calm. Or you walked away. Or you went silent. And they thought your silence was weakness until they realized your silence was closure. Aquarius, your distance is not abandonment. It's discernment. It's the soul knowing when a contract is complete. And that's divine design, because if you were as emotionally entangled as others, you would be easier to manipulate. You would be easier to control. But you're not built that way. You're built to stay clear. You're built to stay sovereign. You're built to remain your own person even when love is present. Now, this next part is going to hit some of you directly, and I need you to stay with me. Sometimes the protection doesn't look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like delays, like late blooming, like watching other people get things faster, easier, louder, while you're still in the quiet. And you might have questioned that. You might have thought, why does it take so long for me? Or, why do I always have to rebuild? Or, why do I feel like I'm starting over again and again? Aquarius, that's not punishment. That's timing, because the universe doesn't rush what's meant to last. You're not late. You're being prepared. Your life often unfolds in waves, slow, then suddenly unstoppable, quiet, then undeniable. And when your breakthrough arrives, it doesn't arrive small. It arrives like a door swinging open that no one can shut. It arrives like a moment that rewrites your entire timeline. That's why your blooming can look delayed to others, because you're not here for quick wins. You're here for impact, and impact requires structure. Now here's something else people rarely talk about. Aquarius triggers awakening in other people. You do it without trying. Just being yourself, just being honest, unconventional, real. can make someone question their whole life, their beliefs, their limitations, their identity. And not everyone wants that. Some people don't want truth. They want comfort. So when you show up as a mirror, they project, they criticize, they label you. They call you too much, too weird, too detached, too intense, too different. But what they're really reacting to is the fact that your existence threatens their illusions. Because Aquarius doesn't play pretend for long, and because your energy wakes people up. The universe often protects you with distance, with endings, with sudden separations, with door slams you didn't even expect, not because you failed, but because you were never meant to stay in spaces that require you to be asleep to belong. If you've been feeling like you're being pulled away from certain people lately, pay attention. If conversations feel smaller than you've become, pay attention. If you feel drained after being around someone, even if you love them, pay attention. Protection doesn't always feel like peace at first. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like losing what you thought you needed. But later you look back and realize the universe removed what you were too loyal to release. Aquarius, you are often the last person to give up on someone. You see potential. You water dry soil. You believe in unseen growth. You give chance after chance because you understand people are complex. And that's beautiful. But it can also be dangerous if you keep investing in people who only want your light for their convenience. So the universe steps in. It puts a veil over you. It makes you harder to reach. It makes you less available to emotional leeches. It makes you less interested in proving your worth. It teaches you a holy kind of detachment, not numbness, but clarity. And if this resonates, I want you to just breathe and let it land. Your boundaries are not a personality flaw. They are a spiritual technology. Now, mini reset. If your mind wandered for a second, come back here. Because we're about to talk about something extremely Aquarius, the way your mind works. Aquarius, your thoughts don't come from the same place as other people's thoughts. You don't just think, you receive, you download. You connect dots that aren't visible yet. You catch patterns like lightning. And sometimes you don't even know how you know, you just know. That's why you can sense lies before they're spoken. That's why you can feel shifts in people before they admit them. That's why you can walk into a room and instantly understand what's happening under the surface. And yes, you can rationalize it as observation. But it's more than that. It's intuition wrapped in logic, a second sight disguised as analysis. And that mental clarity is precious. It's sacred. It's a kind of inner sanctuary. That's why you're often pulled away from noise. Because noise disrupts your signal. Too many opinions, too much chaos, too much gossip, too much emotional static. It contaminates the channel. So the universe protects your mind by isolating you when necessary. It makes you uninterested in shallow environments. It makes you bored with small talk. It makes you allergic to manipulation. It makes you resistant to fear-based control. Aquarius, your soul cannot be owned. Your mind cannot be hijacked. And in a world that profits off confusion, that's a powerful thing. Now, there's a reason you're often underestimated. And this is going to sound strange, but it's true. Sometimes your being misunderstood is camouflage. When people can't categorize you, they don't know how to compete with you. When they call you too different, they stop watching closely. They stop interfering. They leave you alone long enough to build in silence. In Aquarius, you build in silence. You create without needing applause. You develop without needing validation. You grow without announcing it. And then one day, you emerge, and it's undeniable. Not because you demanded attention, but because the work speaks. That's divine timing. That's why the universe protects you from being crushed by premature criticism. It doesn't let the wrong eyes access you too early. It doesn't let the wrong hands touch what you're building before it's strong enough to stand. And if you've been in a season where you feel hidden, where you feel like no one sees you, where you feel like you're not moving fast enough, Aquarius, consider that maybe you're not being delayed. Maybe you're being protected while you become undeniable. Now let's talk about your independence. Aquarius doesn't ask for permission to be themselves. Even when you were younger, you probably had a part of you that refused to fully conform. You might have tried to fit in for a while, but it never lasted. Something in you always pulled you back to authenticity. That sacred autonomy. And people who walk alone by choice often walk closer to the divine. Not because they're superior, but because they learn to listen to the still voice within. Aquarius, you can follow a truth even when it makes no sense to anyone else. You can choose the future over the familiar. You can leave comfort to preserve integrity, and that's why you're protected. Because the universe protects those who protect their own soul. Now, another reset line, because we're going deeper. If you're still here, it means your spirit already knows this isn't random. Aquarius, you carry wisdom that feels older than your age. And you also carry insight that feels futuristic. It's like you're bridging timelines, holding ancient knowing in one hand and tomorrow's possibilities in the other. That's why you can feel like an outsider in the present moment, because you're not fully from the present. You're here to upgrade it, and that role comes with resistance. People resist you when they're not ready. They test you. They misunderstand you. They try to label you so they don't have to face what you represent, but you have a rare strength. You can be misunderstood without becoming bitter. You don't need revenge. You need truth. You don't need to win. You need clarity. You don't demand loyalty. You embody it. Quietly, consistently, even when you've been wronged. And that emotional maturity, that restraint, that ability to release instead of retaliate, that's spiritual mastery. And where there is mastery, there is divine oversight. Aquarius, this is why you keep rising. Even when you fall, you learn fast. Even when you break, you rebuild clean. Your failures don't waste you. They refine you. They become instructions. They become a blueprint for the next version of your life. You don't just survive. You reorganize. You reconfigure. You turn endings into evolution. Now, let's talk about something that might be happening for many Aquarians right now. The keep private energy. Because when protection intensifies, privacy becomes a requirement. You might be in a season where your plans feel sensitive, where your next move feels sacred, where you don't want everyone's opinion touching what you're building, where you feel the urge to move quietly, to stop explaining, to stop defending your choices. Aquarius, listen. That instinct is correct. Not everyone deserves access to the next chapter. Some people only understand you in hindsight, and that's okay. Some people can only appreciate your value after they lose proximity to it. and that's okay too. But your job is not to drag people into readiness. Your job is to stay aligned with your own frequency, because your frequency is the doorway, and only what matches it can enter. This is where the warning comes in, and it's not fear-based, it's clarity-based. Be careful with people who only respect you when you're useful. Be careful with people who like your ideas but don't honor your boundaries. Be careful with people who call you cold when you stop tolerating disrespect. Be careful with people who try to guilt you into staying small. Aquarius, emotional blackmail does not work on you for long, but it can still drain you if you keep trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. And sometimes the universe will remove them abruptly, so you don't keep negotiating your freedom. If someone has been pushing your buttons, trying to provoke a reaction, trying to pull you into drama, the protection around you might look like this. You simply stop caring in the way they want you to care. Your nervous system chooses peace. Your spirit chooses distance. Your soul chooses evolution. And that's when they realize they can't access you anymore. That's a shield. Now, I want to speak directly to the Aquarius who has been hurt recently. You may have been loyal to someone who did not deserve your consistency. You may have believed in someone who kept choosing their patterns over their growth. You may have stayed longer than you should have because you saw the future version of them. Aquarius. You can see potential, but you can't live inside it. You can hold hope, but you can't sacrifice your peace for a possibility. Here's the truth about pain. It becomes prophetic. When you're hurt, you don't collapse forever. You transform. You return with sharper discernment, stronger boundaries, and clearer standards. Your suffering becomes medicine, not only for you, but for those who watch you survive with grace. You don't waste pain. You alchemize it. That's why the universe trusts you with deep lessons and keeps you protected while you learn. Now we reach the part most people never say out loud. Aquarius, sometimes the universe protects you by making you hard to hold. It feels like a curse until you realize it's a blessing. If you were easy to possess, you'd be easier to destroy. If you were easy to manipulate, you'd be easier to pull off your path. But you're not. You're allergic to control. You don't thrive in cages, even if the cage is called love. Your spirit is built for freedom. Anyone who tries to confine you will eventually meet the version of you that walks away without anger, only certainty. Some doors keep closing because if they opened, you'd have to become smaller to stay inside. Some relationships end because they would require you to betray your nature. Some connections fade because they only existed while you were willing to dim. The universe doesn't protect you by giving you everything you want. It protects you by keeping you aligned with who you are. You're not here to live someone else's timeline. You're not here to be digestible. You're not here to be owned. You're here to be a catalyst, quiet, steady, undeniable. If you feel distant, it may not be depression. It may be recalibration. If you don't want to talk, it may not be avoidance. It may be discernment. If old things no longer interest you, it may not be boredom. It may be evolution. And when you evolve, Aquarius, you don't just change yourself. You change the room. You change the people who witness you. You change the future. Take what resonates. The reason you keep rising isn't luck. It's alignment. The universe protects what the future needs alive.